Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 2024 release Divinity. It's a Shudder exclusive and it's coming to Shudder on Friday, August 2nd, so this is a no spoiler review. Now, I know some people who know me quite well through watching a lot of my review videos will and have seen this film before will go into this being like, I think he's going to hate this film. Actually, I liked it. Going into it, I was like, oh no, not another one of these, because it is one of those films that's very style over substance for the most part. But I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that just really worked for me with this film, and it surprised me that I liked it as much as I did. So one thing I do want to say too is if people do end up seeing this film and they really like it, why don't you go ahead and purchase it physically, because Vinegar Syndrome has it on their website, and there's still over 1,000 in stock, so no rush really. But if you like the film so much, when you see it, you can own a physical copy, and I'm all about pushing physical media because then you'll know you can always watch it, because I don't think it's always going to be on Shudder or anywhere streaming, to be honest. So anyway, this film is written and directed by Eddie Alcazar, who wrote Tapia and Perfect. This is actually produced by Steven Soderbergh, by the way. The film is shot in black and white, so if that's something that really bothers you, just letting you know, I have no problem with that. I actually sometimes prefer certain types of films done in black and white. Like, I think it works extremely well for this type of film that is that more style over substance. It gives it a more, like, refined art house type look to it and feel, in my opinion. Also, as far as certain things like CGI use, I think it makes it a little bit easier to make that CGI look less wonky when it's in black and white versus being in color. So I think it works quite well as a choice for this. The film has Bella Thorne, Stephen Dorff, and Scott Bakula in it, and I have to just shout out to Stephen Dorff. Gave it all he had with the role for this film. It's a kind of a demanding role that he has, and he goes at it. Has always been a good actor, still a good actor, into it. And by the way, if you really like Stephen Dorff and you haven't seen the film Space Truckers with him and Dennis Hopper, you're missing out. Especially if you like So Bad It's Good films. Check that one out. Again, Shudder exclusive, coming Friday, August 2nd. So, synopsis. Like I said, style over substance, so there's not a whole lot to say synopsis-wise, because there isn't a whole lot of story to the film, but it's basically about a guy whose father was working on some sort of serum. You don't know exactly what it is, where it comes from, how they worked on it, but it's this type of serum, and you get the idea that what it does is it, like, increases people's life longevity. It's called Divinity, which is why the film is called Divinity, and it's about the son of this guy who originally created it kind of taking over the work and trying to refine it, but then he is basically taken hostage by two individuals, and we don't know why, we don't know what their motivation is here, and is basically like hooked up to his own serum, and things go from there. And there is horror to it. It does take quite a long time for it to actually get to the horror, but trust me, there is horror to it. It's pretty much at the end. Up until that point, it's just like kind of like sci-fi, and it has like a retro futuristic feel to it. I mean that by saying it definitely feels and looks futuristic with a lot of the things they kind of put in there CGI wise and like set design and everything. But it also has like a retro feel to it, because like the computer they use obviously looks like it's from like the 90s. It's like old computers, so retro futuristic. But anyway, it looks visually stunning right out of the gate, but it is grainy. That's one of the things that was a little weird to me. Is I really like it when they're doing black and white, if it's pretty like crisp and pristine looking. It's pretty grainy, and I think, I might be wrong on this, I think the reason it's kind of grainy is because the lighting needed to be a bit more, or they were just going for that grainy look. It didn't kill the experience of the film at all, but I just would have preferred it to be more crisp. I think it would have worked better. It looks and feels kind of like a mix of the Panos Cosmatos film Beyond the Black Rainbow and George Miller's Mad Max Fury Road. I haven't seen Furiosa at this point, so I can't compare it to that, but the look and feel of it, and like the shooting location, the set design, that type of stuff, feels like those two movies, Beyond the Black Rainbow and Mad Max Fury Road, kind of put together. But as far as like actual events of what goes on, it doesn't have a ton in common with either of those. And there are no like high speed chases and fight scenes, so because the film feels abstract, you don't really know what's going to happen at any given time. That is one of the nice things about the film, the element of unpredictability, which is really what kept me engaged, especially when it is kind of a slow film. Pacing isn't great, but at the end, it kind of hits where it's supposed to and really picks up then. But like I said, the unpredictability of it is kind of what does keep you hooked. And also the set design is really cool. The shooting location is really cool. And it's, like I said, like very visually stunning. So there's a lot of great stuff to just kind of look at. It is eye candy for the entire duration of the film. So, you can spend your time just kind of like looking around and being in awe of how it looks. The score is very effective, and it gives a futuristic, almost ethereal type feel at times, which I really like. I think it enhances the kind of mystery aspect of the film. Obviously, the retro-futuristic aspect of it really enhances as well. So I'm all about the score. The shooting locations and set design are pretty interesting. Actually, very interesting in my opinion. Those are the things I was really focusing on when the film was getting slow, and I was like, this is a little repetitive at this point, or we're just getting into a little bit of like a story quagmire at the moment. I was just kind of looking at the shooting location and set design. So great job on those things. It's a horny film, just so people know. If you don't like sexual content in your films, that's very sexual. There are some sex scenes in it. Well, I think just one primarily. Well, two. Okay, never mind. There are two sex scenes, but the whole film feels kind of sexual. Even when there's other things going on that normally wouldn't feel sexual, it's a horny film. So if that's cool for you, awesome. If that's not, maybe you don't want to watch it. I don't know. It certainly kind of gets lost in its own sauce at times. Meaning the whole style over substance thing and, not really having a whole lot of a story. The overall purpose of the film and idea behind it kind of ends up losing the film itself. But then it kind of reemerges some at the end. Now, I will say that people are going to watch this and you're really not going to know what the filmmaker was trying to say, but does that really matter? It is more of, like I said, style over substance. So I don't know what the filmmaker is trying to say in this instance, and a lot of the stuff story-wise really isn't that unique, honestly. It's just the way in which it's done and kind of Eddie Alcazar's take on this is what's interesting. Steven Dorff really putting it out there. Like I said, props to him. He did great. Characters have very little depth, unfortunately, so you don't really feel that close with anyone. I think that is one of the big issues with the film, is that no character endears themselves to you. And it's not because you couldn't necessarily identify with them, that like everyone's super terrible, but they don't really go in depth. They don't have depth to any of these characters, and there isn't really much of any development at all either. So it's all very surface level, so you don't really get to know anyone. You don't know what people are about. You don't know their motivations. You don't know any of their life story, really, except a very basic one about the guy who's working on Divinity. And it just, like, it keeps you at arm's length at all times as far as the characters go, and that's just not helpful for immersive experience as far as that goes. But, again, the story's super light, so, whatever. It does eventually get to the horror, like I said, but that's primarily at the end. And it's not heavy. It's not heavy on the horror, so I was still fine with it. I'm like, okay, horror elements, I'm cool with it. There are portions at the end that kind of look like stop motion animation, which I thought was super cool because I'm really into that. I couldn't decide if it actually was stop motion or it was just something done CGI wise to make it look like stop motion. But regardless, it was very cool. I really liked it. And especially the scene that they use for it is actually very engaging and interesting, and I did not see that coming. I mean, it's the whole premise of the film. Like, you're just not going to see anything coming. You have no true idea where this thing is going, and then you're just there. It will just take you, lead you by the hand, and take you where it's going. At one point, it actually takes on like a bit of a comic book feel to it for a little bit, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um, I wouldn't say it necessarily worked for but it didn't, kill anything with the film either. So I was just kind of like, yeah, that's an interesting choice, basically. It's kind of slow, a slow, confusing movie, but the ending makes it worth watching, in my opinion. The ending makes it very worth watching because you do at that point feel like, on a personal level, the filmmaker's probably trying to lay something out that maybe some people will pick up on, but I don't know. Like, it's just so abstract. You're just like, okay, I don't know. But it looked cool, and it was pretty interesting time. So out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm actually going to give it a 3.5 star rating. I enjoyed it. Surprisingly, the beginning of the film, I'm like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be into this one, but I was. It's good. So this is where I'd like to hear from you. If you've seen the film, do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you in between on it? Put it in the comments, and we can talk spoilers in the comments. That's totally fine. Hit subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Do me that favor. It's the best way to keep me motivated to keep doing this. It's your best way to say thank you for what I'm doing. Also, the thumbs up, that helps with the YouTube algorithm. And you can hit the notification bell button if you want to know when I'm putting up new videos. But regardless, thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video and any video you may watch on my channel. I do greatly appreciate that. And until next time, keep it brutal.